Everyone please rise. Alderman Sam Browning, please lead us in prayer.
Almighty God, we ask for your blessing upon the members of this council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we will strive to ensure that all our decisions are for the common good, and your inspiration will instill respect, compassion, and thoughtfulness in all our deliberations. Give us the strength and wisdom to lead by example as the people's representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark our proceedings and keep us faithful to the trust placed in us by the citizens of our community. Amen.
Amen.
Alderwoman John Filbert, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the first meeting in the month of February 2018.
Adoption of minutes, January 2nd and 16, 2018.
Entertain a motion, please. Alderwoman Filbert, second. Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. 7-0.
Public hearing, number 1, an ordinance to amend portions of ordinance number 1762, codified as section 2-23, Norwich ratepayer representative to CMAQ.
I declare this public hearing open, and I would invite people from the public. I do not have a sign-up sheet. No one signed up, so microphone is yours. Remind everyone you have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the public record. Anyone like to speak in favor of this ordinance?
Brian Kobelar, 16 Hobart Avenue. Speaking in favor of the amendments that have been made to date, it's very, very important that we look back and learn exactly why this is in front of you. There was a lack of communication, which led to problems that put a stain on the city in the press and the community, and it also stained part of our business community. If people had merely been talking with one another and sharing information when it should have been done, that would have been avoided. This is an opportunity to codify that and ensure that it doesn't happen again. There's a second thing that struck me as I read through the original language and after speaking with some of you. I noted that right now in the original version, there's a requirement related to being current on payments to NPU. That is not public information. Though it wouldn't happen, I don't think, with the people in front of me right now, or with the person that's been selected as a representative to CMEQ. I see the potential for some time in the future, if somebody falls behind a little bit, and it's not information available to the public, somebody could use that as leverage over the representative. There should not be an opening for that to take place. And I think that the changes that are being incorporated move that into a place where it can't happen. So I appreciate your consideration. Again, transparency, openness, it's the entire intent of the Connecticut statute, and I hope that you embrace that attitude when you look at this amendment and bring it forward and vote on it positively. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor of proposed ordinance amendments? Anyone would like to speak in favor of proposed amendments to the ordinance? Anyone else like to speak in favor a third time? Seeing no one. Anyone like to speak in opposition to the proposed amendment to the ordinance? Anyone like to speak in opposition? Third and final time. Anyone like to speak in opposition to the proposed amendment to the ordinance? Seeing none, I then declare the public hearing closed, and thank you.
Second reading and action on the ordinance listed above. An ordinance to amend portions of ordinance number 1762, codified as section 2-23, Norwich ratepayer representative to CMAQ.
Yes, Alderman Sam Browning, please.
Thank you. I would like to amend the present ordinance. The following are the changes in the text since the first reading.
Excuse me, we need to bring it before us first.
Okay.
Yeah, so
May I
you're
please-
moving to bring it forward?
Yeah, I'm
And I'd
moving.
like to have someone second, please.
Seconded.
Yes, Alderman Joe DeLucia.
Okay. May I continue? Okay. The background is after certain consultations were happened, I produced an amendment to change some of the language, and under qualifications in the language B1, B2, referring to the representative, ratepayer representative shall be elector of the city of Norwich and a residential or commercial ratepayer. I've changed that to positive language. They shall be rather than negative language, that they will be excluded because they are not. In B46, in the original, there's a discussion of the ratepayer representative participating in the ethics training requirement, and I restored that. That was produced by Jerry Martin. It got omitted in the first version. It's now back in my proposed amendment. In B4D, I restored the word resources to the sentence, the ability to commit sufficient time and resources to prepare for and effectively participate in the proceedings of the Cooperative Utility Board of CMAQ. There's at least one member of the City Council who really wanted that word back in. I did not want to hang up the adoption on one word. Finally, and this is probably the biggest change, but it was reflected in the newspaper article, the annual report requirement has been changed to read, quote, the Norwich ratepayer representative shall provide the Norwich City Council with a quarterly report describing the activities, performance, and conditions of CMAQ and its programs as they relate to the city of Norwich. The ratepayer representative may communicate with the council more frequently or by invitation of the mayor. I'd like to discuss these matters further in the discussion period.
You need a second. Is there a second for him to offer the amended language, please?
Seconded.
Alderman DeLucia. Is there further discussion? Alderman Browning?
This is an ordinance, and it's designed to have a ratepayer who represents the citizens of Norwich in the interface with the Norwich City Council. The most important thing to know about the original version is it did not talk about communication between the ratepayer and the ratepayer representative in the City Council. That was an omission. If nothing else, I think that should be fixed. When I talk about reports, I'm not necessarily requesting voluminous, lengthy reports, but communication. Additionally, there were some other changes. If you go back to the original, in B5, there was a discussion about how if the ratepayer representative did not perform certain functions, they would forfeit their office. That was incredibly vague, in my opinion. So we went back to the Connecticut statute itself, and instead talked about how, inserted language that the ratepayer representative could be removed with or without cause by majority vote. But there was also a resignation provision in there so that if the ratepayer representative, for whatever reason, did not feel that they were meeting their obligations, they could resign instead of it becoming an issue. And while I hope this is never used, we're creating a permanent position in some council 30 years from now. It would be very helpful if they had a roadmap. I also had an objection to the ratepayer remaining current with utility payments, and my objection was this: we don't require it of the people on the NPU board. We don't require it of, I've checked the charter, we don't require it of any other board that I'm aware of. And you could obtain that information if you obtained a release from the ratepayer representative, but who's going to report on the ratepayer representative? Is the city manager going to look at their bills every month? You could, if there was an issue, you could still remove them under the without cause section of the my original proposed amendment. Under A, the purpose was rewritten to be more clear. You could say it's stylistic, but I think it's much more easily to understand. Finally, under B4, there is a section involving, I changed that so there's professional or other expertise that would allow the individual to understand and effectively participate in CMAQ managerial decisions. Our current representative is an expert in budgets. That's, the original language was, in formulating the opinions and directions related to electronic procurement and electronic generation strategy. There's very few people in Norwich who have that expertise, but there's people who can come in with other expertise, legal, budget, et cetera, and participate meaningfully in those discussions. Finally, there was a term limit. I put in a term limit of 10 years. I think that, you know, you can get renewed every 2 years, but after 10 years, I think realistically you would probably want someone new in the position. I don't think very many people will reach to 10 years, but I think it's a concern. And I recognize that the members of this body do not agree with all these proposed changes, but I would ask that they consider amending this ordinance to amending my amendment if they disagree with particular verbiage, so we could at least get this done. Of course, it would have to go for another reading, but it's one more meeting and it's not budget season yet, so this would be the time to do it. And thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on the amendment? Alderman DeLucia.
So I was looking for three things in the changes that we were making to this ordinance. I was looking for reasonable qualifications to be clearly outlined, that the ethics training that former Alderman Martin was so insistent upon was in there, because I completely agreed with that at the time, and as I do now. And again, because I wanted to see the report obligation completely spelled out. I'm supporting these changes, knowing that this may be something that we need to refine down the road. However, I will express a concern with the term limit, because I believe that if the appoint-reappoint subcommittee does its job, upon which I sit currently, it does its job, then we'll be selecting a person that we won't have to limit their term. So we'll have the kind of person that we would want to keep there indefinitely. So I do have a challenge with that piece, but having said that, the three major things that I outlined that I was looking for are there, and I will be supporting the change that we're proposing.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderwoman Stacey Gould.
First off, I thank you, Alderman Browning, for bringing this forward, but I really would have liked more than 20 minutes to look over your proposed changes. As far as the delinquency to MPU, I don't know if that's important or not important. Like Mr. Kobelar stated, it could be held over the head of the ratepayer representative, and if he or she does sign a release, we can find out if they are delinquent. I have a problem with changing the language to just managerial decisions, because it's not just managerial decisions. And while the person that we appoint to this may not have a lot of information about the procurement of electricity and other things that CMEC does, I would like them to get up to speed to learn about those things, because that's what CMEC does. It's not just about whether or not we're going to hire or fire the executive assistant, and I think just managerial decisions is not specific enough. In section, I think it's still 3B, or maybe not. Knowledge of the standards of good conduct ethics, what are they? Where are we providing this information to the ratepayer representative? The term limits, I have a problem with that. What if the person is doing a fantastic job and wants to serve another term? Now we have to say, I'm very sorry, you've done a great job, but it's time for you to go. And I don't think that's fair to the ratepayer representative. There's going to be a lot of work that's going to have to go into this job. They're going to have to get up to speed on a lot of things. And now we've got them up to speed, and now we're saying, sorry, we have to take you out of the position. So as it stands right now, this amending and amending and amending, while I appreciate your hard work, I cannot support until I've had adequate time to digest all of this. So I cannot support changing, amending this ordinance at this time.
Thank you. Is there further discussion or comment? Alderman Brown, second time.
Would you support it if we amended it right now to remove the term limit?
Well, that's one of my objections.
Alderwoman Filbert.
I agree with Alderwoman Gould. I mean, let's not try and reinvent the wheel here. Amendment after amendment after amendment. We had a public hearing. We had our discussion. I believe if we amend it again and again, we have to publish it again. This costs money. It costs hundreds of dollars. I believe that the citizens of Norwich have elected us to do a job. In our positions, we have selected a person who we believe will best fulfill the needs of the overall concept of the representative to the CMEC board. We can ask of the CMEC representative, just as we can ask of any other board or department head, for a report at any given time. It doesn't have to be quarterly, it doesn't have to be annually, it doesn't have to be weekly, it doesn't have to be written, it doesn't have to be in person, but we have a duty and a responsibility to ask for that information. I would also hope that because this is such a responsible position, that the individual who holds this position would be of a certain stature that they would remain current on their utility bills. It wouldn't be prudent to do otherwise. So I will not be supporting this amendment. I think it's much ado about nothing. With all due respect to Mr. Browning, I know he has put time and effort into it, but again, to be presented something 15, 20 minutes before a council meeting is no. So.
Thank you. Other comments? Yes, Alderman Burnham.
I think there is a history of presenting things with very few minutes to review, which is, of course, we would like to try to avoid that. But I think one of the things that this council is trying to achieve is streamlining, transparency, and accountability. So if we take our time to do something and do something right in the best interest of the citizens, especially in response to what has happened, I think that's okay. Also expecting some element of periodicity on reporting ties into streamlining accountability and transparency. So, and I think that would help to propel that forward. So I think that that is a good amendment to include.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderwoman Filbert.
So just so I'm clear, so let's just say that we adopted this amendment and then we say to our CMEC representative, you will, or you shall do A, B, C, D, are we then going to micromanage and say, well, you know, you were supposed to submit a report. Well, you didn't ask me for a specific report. Yeah, but you were supposed to. I just think it gets too complicated. This is a work in progress. It's something new. Let's have a little learning curve for everybody. If we find after 6 months or a year that it is a complete fiasco, then we can come back and address the issue. But as I said originally, let's not try and reinvent the wheel.
Thank you. Alderman DeLucia.
So I would say that we are in fact inventing the wheel because this is an entirely new piece of legislation that created this position, and it is our responsibility to make sure that the person that we appoint, that we've appointed, understands what their responsibility to this council is. I say that while these the amendments on top of amendments are just as frustrating to me as they are to some of my colleagues up here, but at the same time, if we leave this as is, there is no reporting requirement, obligation back to this council. So if we talk about letting it refine and letting it ferment and letting us learn, travel the learning curve, we'll be doing so without really any stated report obligation for however long that process might take. And in terms of the idea that we'll have to republish, which we will if we want to refine this down the road, that is going to cost us money whether we do it today, whether we do it next month, whether we do it a year from now. So while this is a completely imperfect way to approach this, and I've been vocal about that, however, I can't let that imperfect process get in the way of one of the most important pieces of what this is supposed to be about, and that is the reporting back to this body. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on the amendment? President Pro Tem Nash.
I'll pipe in. This isn't reinventing the wheel, it's changing the wheel because we already have this in place. There's already an ordinance covering this position. We do want to, and some of the language is just simply that, language changes. Someone didn't like the way someone else wrote paper. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm not a lawyer, so some of this stuff is just as confusing as the original stuff. So I don't think it answers a whole lot of stuff. There's a few issues I have. The term limitations were already, I don't necessarily agree with the term limitations only because there's no other board or commissions that have term restrictions. So we're going to start doing that with this particular board, and this particular board, I'm sure, is probably not one of the ones we want to start throwing term limitations on. As far as transparency, I hear that word a lot. I've sat up here now, this is my 5th term, and I don't know how much more transparent you want, other than you sit up here and we'll sit in the audience, because you're getting everything we're getting. You get all of it in the same information that we get. You get it in the same time that we get it. Sometimes you get it before we even get it, because I've read the papers, and some stuff in the papers I don't even know about until I read it in the paper. So you guys, the citizens are getting as much information, if not more, than I get at the same time. As far as the ratepayer and being behind and stuff, listen, we all find ourselves behind in bills. You're going to throw this at this guy and none of the other positions, you know, other than taxes. So I don't know. At this point, I'm really struggling with whether to support this or not. I don't know if it needs, and as far as this person serves at the will of the mayor, and if the mayor decides, hey, I want you to come in and give me a report, and the person decides not to come in and give a report, that person leaves and we put another person there. It's really that simple. It's not about we have to put it in his paper, he has to come in or she has to come in. The mayor can call that person in any time he wants, or she, and say, come and give me a report, and if that person doesn't come in and give the report, we simply replace that person with someone who's more accommodating to the mayor and the council when they need the report. So at this point, I don't know. I'm not really changing this just for the sake of changing it because you rather write I shall than me will or whatever. I don't know. This is silly to me, so I'm not going to support this tonight.
Thank you. Any further comments? Spoken twice, I believe.
Okay.
Briefly on the amendment that's offered, I think everyone here has expressed concerns that you can call valid. The real question is, are we weakening the current ordinance that we recently adopted less than 2 months ago, and the appointment was less than, I think, 6 weeks ago? And our appointee happens to be sitting here in the audience in the front row, so I think he has heard clearly the concern about transparency and open dialogue and reporting back to the council. That message has been delivered. At this time, I will not be supporting this amendment. So those are my comments. Time for the vote. Okay. All those in favor of the amendment? No. Please raise your hands high, please, so I can see. Okay.
What are we voting on?
Voting on the amendment as offered. Okay. Please, one more time. Alderman Burnham. Yep. There's 3 opposed. Motion fails 4-3. The ordinance as proposed originally is still in front of us. What is the pleasure? Alderman Browning.
I would still support the original ordinance over having no reporting function. I think I can predict how this vote will turn out, but I will ask that we simply have that vote and then move on.
Thank you, sir. Is there further comment? Seeing none? Yeah. This will be a roll call vote, final vote in action. Alderwoman Burnham?
For the original amendment?
Yes.
For the original ordinance?
Yes.
In favor? Aye.
Thank you. Alderman Browning?
In favor.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes.
Alderwoman Filbert?
No.
Alderwoman Gould?
No.
President Pro Tem Nash?
No.
Mayor Nystrom, no. Motion fails 4-3. Petitions.
Number 1, relative to a letter of removal from Chairman of the Inland Wetlands Watercourse and Conservation Commission regarding Philip Kiley.
Motion, please, bring it forward. Alderwoman Stacey Gould, second President Pro Tem Nash. Any discussion? No. All those in favor to receive? Unanimous, 7-0. Number 2, please.
Relative to a letter of resignation of Pamela Muselli from the Norwich Historic District.
Motion to bring it before us. Alderwoman Gould, second by President Pro Tem Nash. Is there discussion? Yes, Alderwoman Filbert.
I'm just a little confused. Her correspondence is dated March 31st, 2017. It's CC to the mayor's office January 23rd. She didn't submit it?
That was the earliest she could get here, she said.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Is there further discussion or comment? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous, 7-0. City Manager's report, please.
Thank you. This is the city manager's report for February 5th, 2018. I met with Fawn Walker and Devin Schleit from NPU regarding a checklist for developers looking to start businesses in Norwich. They will be meeting with departments throughout the city. They also met with staff and representatives of the Norwich Baseball Stadium Authority regarding capital improvements. I attended the monthly CCOG and SEAT meetings on January 17th. I met with staff and members of the volunteer fire departments regarding the upcoming purchase of 5 new trucks and had my monthly staff meeting with department heads. The goal-setting session for the City Council and invited department heads was held on Saturday, January 20th at Foundry 66. The full-day meeting comprised of a listing of the city's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis, Jim O'Shea, the facilitator, is in the process of compiling the information along with my assistant, which will then be discussed with the council at a future date. The mayor and I met with Bill Champagne and Reagan Miner of the Norwich Historical Society. They informed us that the Historical Society is applying for Norwich to be a Preserve America community. This designation would allow the city to apply for grants to enhance heritage tourism. Preserve America is a national program, and more information and a resolution will be forthcoming to council. Police arbitration was held on January 23rd. I met with Senator Olson and our legislators per her request regarding potential funding for various capital projects. I attended a concepts and objectives meeting with the Millstone Host Community Drill that is scheduled for November 17th, 2018, which was hosted by Chief Scandiarto. Members from the Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, Norwich Public Schools, Norwich Fire Administration, and operations staff, and Chief of East Great Plain Volunteer Fire Department were also in attendance. The official planning meeting to start the preparation process for the drill will be held sometime in May. Finally, congratulations to Lieutenant Timothy Rakowski and Sergeant Avery Marsh, who were promoted at the swearing-in ceremony held on January 25th. That completes my report.
Thank you. Are there questions of the city manager? President Pro Tem Nash.
So we, about over a year ago, we did an ethics training that was brought up again tonight. And I was made aware recently that there are significant numbers of commissioners, board members, and committee members who have yet to take it, and some have refused. Is there a way that you can update the council on the next city council meeting as to who those people are or when we will see their training completed? I think it's unconceivable that they have yet to complete the training at this point.
I can give you a list of people. As far as when, I'm not sure.
I think that would be a good start.
They have been reminded and given every opportunity to take the course and have not as of this point.
Thank you.
It's Alderwoman Philbrick.
With all due respect, Mr. Salamone, it is a requirement that boards and commissions take the ethics training. I believe I took mine, I don't know, 6, 8, 10 months ago. I think it's important, at least to me, that when we have a rule, we follow the rule. If the rule doesn't work, then we change the rule. But why should some people be ethical, no pun intended, and take the ethics training, while other folks are allowed to just decide for themselves, you know what, I don't feel like doing it, not going to do it. I don't want those people on my boards and commissions, and I will be looking forward to the list. It's time, in my opinion, that my goal is for the city itself, and I can't speak for my other council members, and I tried in my first 2 years to sit in a chair and play nice in the schoolyard, but quite frankly, I'm getting a little bit frustrated. We are in charge. You elected us to run the city. The boards and commissions don't run the city. The employees don't run the city. It's time to let these people know, and I congratulate those that are adhering to the rules. The rest of them, they need to have a sit-down and find out why. Now, if they have a reasonable explanation, I'm certainly anxious to hear it. But if they don't, you know, and I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid where it says, well, you know, if we push the issue, they might resign from the board or they might quit. It's time. We all took the ethics training. It was required. The word required, if you looked up in the dictionary, does not say, well, when I feel like it. So I will be looking forward, John, to a list of the people who have not, and then I will personally come in and speak with you and address my concerns further. Thank you.
We'll give you that at the next meeting.
Thank you. Is there further questions of the city manager?
Meeting?
Seeing none, let's move on, please.
Citizen comment on resolutions.
Declare citizen comment open on the resolutions on our agenda. If you want to share ideas, please do so. Yes. For the record, please state your name and address.
Rodney Boyd, 62 Roosevelt Avenue. Number one, I don't think anybody's read the hazards plan yet. I was told this afternoon it was being typed up, published, or whatever. Number 5, reappointments to the Board of Appeals. I quite frankly don't know who it is that's being appointed to the Board of Appeals for. I had occasion in the past, a couple of things, filed an appeal on a building inspection thing. They held the appeal down in the basement of the building. They never informed me when the appeal was going to be held. And I was so damn mad, I went down to Superior Court and got satisfaction out of it. Wasn't even notified when this happened. But this Board of Appeals has to be, one, we don't need a lawyer that's hired by the city to do this kind of thing. Particularly if they disagrees with the city's thing, he's not going to get paid, or he's not going to be called back again. But we need somebody on those boards that's going to represent ordinary citizens or citizens that are in trouble. We don't need somebody that's just going to stamp every single one of these things here according to what the building inspector is going to say. Because quite frankly, the inspection they did on me, and I'm a landlord, was ludicrous. And I was, like I say, I was so mad I went down to Superior Court with it. And I got what I wanted, quite frankly. They thought it was stupid. But anyways, we need people that are going to represent us.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak under citizen comment? Please.
Good evening. David Crabb, 47 Prospect Street. I oppose resolutions number 1 and 6. My 2-page handout is a reminder about the topics that bothered bulletin readers in the summer of 2007, before the financial crisis, perhaps a predictor of how many foreclosures to expect before long. The reasons for opposing Resolution 6 overlap those for number 1. The Trump tax cuts were reported on IRS 1099 forms having my taxes withheld. They are enough to pay the higher taxes from last summer's well-advertised tax cut. For example, the taxes for my 2001 van increased 13%, even with a state-mandated cap, and that's before we had to pay taxes again at the end of the year. Have the comptroller do what he did last summer by informing everyone how much of this year's tax cut works out of these contracts. The bonds authorized after the budget swallowed the oft-repeated tax cuts. Mothball the transportation center is one way to save some money and get Norwich out of the welfare business, the only municipality in this state involved with the opioid crisis that are properly a state problem. The legislator provides the gateway for these people to get where they are. The time is ripe to hire a recognized municipal manpower survey to bring Norwich in line with the 21st century efficiencies. One reason for many Congress senators opposing Trump is because there is no room for pork in his goals. The description for Resolution 1 reminded me about Johnny Cash's song about getting a Cadillac one piece at a time, and it only needed an adapter plate to connect the transmission to the engine. And the title weighed 5 pounds, something like this Resolution 1 document? How many adapter plates will the taxpayers have to pay for to keep this thing up? Why was the Central Fire the recipient instead of the Plant for Conservation and Development or the Emergency Management person? Does it address the problems about landfill leakage that a Norwich farmer has? Why is it on the agenda when copies are not available? Table it until Congress approves a budget. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further comment under citizen comment? And I'd like to speak before the council on the resolutions as proposed. Anyone else under citizen comment? I declare it closed and thank you very much. The business.
Number 1, relative to adopting the Hazard Mitigation Plan Update 2017.
Motion to bring the resolution forward, please. President Pro Tem Nass, Alderwoman Stacy Gould. Is there discussion? Alderwoman Filbert.
Where would I find the updated version?
I believe it's online, isn't it? Planning office.
The fire department, it's like 800 pages for one, that's 5 different
800.
sections of it, yeah, so about 500 pages, it's very long. It's a book for putting together the book, but we have it available. We emailed it to 1 or 2 council members already last.
It's approximately 800 pages in length and is held in the possession of our fire department. So it's not online, but
Stacy has it. We gave a copy to Stacy.
With all due respect, how do you expect me to intelligently vote on something when I haven't even seen it? There must be like a codified, it's like the state government that buried under page 992, subsection 3, paragraph 4, is something that's really important. So if all my other, I know I'm nitpicking, but you're asking me to vote on something that I have no idea what it is. I don't know what the updated version says.
it's a valid point. Alderwoman Burnham?
Yeah, that was going to be one of my concerns. If as we're issuing agendas and do a thorough review, any accompanying materials affiliated with any resolutions to be forwarded at that time would be great. Having said that, I did request thank you to the city clerk's office for, I did see that it wasn't included, and they did forward the entire zip file, and it is posted on the CCOG website, and we wouldn't know that, so if there's a link or something to include so you don't have to attach an entire zip file. The whole report is not 800 pages. There's a lot of appendices. It's about 80 pages, but I did read the mitigation strategies and actions, and while I understand everybody's concerns about not having the report, it was a good report and good work to CCOG and Deanna and Ryan for their contributions.
Thank you. Is there further comment or concerns? Just a moment, please. If members would be more comfortable, we could postpone final action on this resolution to the next meeting of this council. And in between that time, we will make a concerted effort to get a summary of what those are, the changes and updates. This is required of the city. It must happen at some point in time, and there is a deadline looming, but I don't think we need to rush to judgment on this matter. So would I entertain a motion? Postpone. Alderwoman Burnham, is there a second? Alderwoman Stacy Gould. Next meeting of the council, sufficient?
February 20, Tuesday, February 20.
That would be February 20th. Tuesday.
The 20th.
20th, yep. All those in favor? Unanimous?
Number 2, relative to an appointment of a regular member to the Inland Wetlands, Watercourses, and Conservation Commission.
Motion to bring it forward, please.
So moved.
Alderman DeLucia, second. Alderwoman Stacy Gould. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous, 7-0. For the members of the public, the person being appointed is Mr. Robert McCoy.
Number 3, relative to appointing a certified public accountant firm to perform the regular general audit for fiscal year 2017-2018.
Motion to bring it forward, please. Alderwoman Stacy Gould, is there a second? Alderwoman Filbert, is there discussion? Yes, Alderwoman Burnham.
I just have a question. How long have Bloom and Shapiro performed our audits for the city of Norwich?
Bloom Shapiro and its predecessor entity, Scully and Wolf, has been the auditor for the city of Norwich since fiscal year 2005. We've had 3 requests for proposals. This most recent one, we received 4 proposals. We invited the 3 most qualified / least expensive ones in for interviews, checked the references, and determined that, well, the 3 whom we interviewed, very qualified, all could have, performed the audit. But Bloom Shapiro was a little bit cheaper than the rest, so we selected them for a 5-year contract.
Alderman Burnham, you still have the floor.
No,
Okay.
we're good, thanks.
Alderman Browning.
Are they also the auditor for Norwich Public Utilities, and if so, since when?
Same time period.
Yes, Alderwoman Stacy Gould.
Having been invited to sit in on that meeting with the auditors and hear their presentations, while it was very stimulating to sit there for 4 hours and listen to all of their presentations, I think Bloom Shapiro had the best presentation for the least amount of money. And the one question I did ask was that, if there was too much, well, I know you, you know me, and they explained that they changed the top guy who comes in and looks over the audit changes every year. So it's not going to be, I know Joe, Joe knows me, well, wink, wink, and everything will be okay. Because that was one of my concerns about having them for over a period of time. And I was assured that the managerial portion or the manager of the audit is different every year. So I'm very confident that Bloom Shapiro will perform the audit with their eyes wide open, and I doubt there'll be any surprises because Josh and his team do an excellent job.
Yeah, through the people just changing positions, we've had 3 different audit partners and at least 3 different audit managers during that time since 2005. So it's a new set of eyes, different set of, they have their certain areas that they'll focus on, and everything gets covered.
Is there further questions, concerns of the comptroller? Thank you very much for the summary. Any further comment on the resolution before us? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous, 7-0.
Number 4, relative to abolish and discharge various city committees.
Motion to bring it forward, please. Alderwoman Filbert, second. Alderwoman Burnham, is there comment? Yes, Alderwoman Filbert.
I'd like to personally take this opportunity to thank Alderwoman Gould for taking the initiative on this. Stacy's very organized, and I think we will see more of these coming forward. The website and the committees are way, way, way too cluttered, and so this is a perfect way to sort of clean house without causing a great deal of damage. And I think that, as I said, I would personally like to thank her for taking the initiative to do this. It's long overdue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne.
Further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution? Unanimous. Opposed, 7-0.
Number 5, relative to reappointments to the Board of Appeals Building Code.
Motion to bring it forward, please. Alderman DeLucia, is there a second? Alderwoman Stacy Gould, is there discussion? Alderman DeLucia.
Just to address one comment that was made, and talk about appointing people who care about the city and care about the residents to boards of this level of significance. I believe that we've done that. Scott Barbarossa, I've known him my entire life. He is very diligent about everything he does. Tom Cummings, can't say enough good things about him. And again, Hank Olander, again, a longtime resident, well, lifelong resident, longtime contractor in the city. These are the kind of people that we need on this appeals board because they understand the codes, they understand the challenges of the city, and they care enough to make themselves available to do this for us. So in spite of what might have been considered or could be considered a negative comment earlier tonight, I think that we have chosen very well on this resolution.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. 7-0 is the vote.
Number 6, relative to coalition bargaining, amendments to general city pension.
I take a motion at this time for suspension of our rules.
So
To
moved.
executive session. Is there a second to that motion for suspension?
Second.
Alderman DeLucia, second by Alderman Browning. All those in favor of suspension? Unanimous. Alderman Stacy Gould,
I
you have
hereby
the floor.
move pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 1-200 subsection 6 that the members of the Norwich City Council go into executive session for the purpose of discussing strategy and negotiations with respect to collective bargaining. The following shall be asked to participate during all or portions of this executive session at the request of the City Council: John Salamone, the City Manager; Bridget Marks, Director of Human Resources; Josh Pothier, Comptroller; Michael E. Driscoll, Corporate Counsel.
Is there a second? Alderman Philbrick. All those in favor? It's unanimous. 7-0. Room 319, please. Council, come back to order. Let the record show that no votes were taken. Need a motion to come back. Entertain a motion and a second to come back in. Alderwoman Stacey Gould, second Alderwoman Burnham. All those in favor? Unanimous.
Number 6, relative to coalition bargaining, amendments to the general city pension.
Who made the motion? We brought it forward. Motion to bring it forward, please. Alderwoman Stacey Gould, is there a second? Alderman Browning, is there discussion? No discussion? For the record, I'd just simply like to thank all the members of our bargaining units who participated, as well as our city administrative staff, to bring this issue forward before us. It is clear that it represents cost savings to the taxpayers over the next few decades. That is substantial. At the same time, it still provides benefits and packages for our employees who are very valuable to us. All those in favor of the resolution? Unanimous, 7-0.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.